All right, welcome to the first Lunch and Learn for June 2026. If you've been following along, we've got a different topic absolutely every week. Ooh, it's got excited and went ahead of me. Every time we have this conversation, there's a new topic so that we're keeping you up to date with what is happening in the digital marketing landscape. So today we're going to be looking at storytelling mastery. And the mastery is actually not that difficult. It's all in the smaller details. So we're going to walk through how you can do this for yourself to make it effective for your business. Now, storytelling is becoming more and more important because of AI. Thank you, AI. We've got to humanize our businesses as much as possible. And drawing people into a narrative, whether they can see themselves as the hero in the conversation or sharing your own story and your own business, are powerful ways to connect with people. So we've got, as you can see here, it's depth over speed in content creation. And that's really important. And we're seeing big differences between businesses who are still using a lot of stock. Maybe they're using AI to help generate their captions versus the companies who are taking time to cultivate their content and think about it from their user point of view. At the end of the day, we're all getting a little bit tired of being bombarded with content constantly on social media, which just feels empty, feels rushed. And it's great that we can get things up that quickly. But at the same time, if we're disconnecting from our potential audiences more than ever, that's not really doing our businesses any justice. And that's what we're trying to solve with this topic. So by the end of lunch, what you're going to know is you're going to understand why depth-focused storytelling outperforms shallow content currently, how to apply some proven storytelling frameworks to your brand, how you can also create different kinds of stories. And we're going to run through those in this conversation so you can see what could potentially work for you. And then have a balance between depth with practical distribution across your channels as well. At the end of the day, we don't want this to take up a lot more of your time. It shouldn't. And we've got to think smartly rather than working too hard on this. You also need to be focusing on your clients and giving good service delivery at the end of the day. And how you can also develop a simple storytelling system which you can use consistently. All right, those are our goals today. So if you have not met me yet, my name is Tamsin Haley. I'm the founder and the business developer at Digital Happiness. And we're an agency that focuses on return on investment for our clients. And we believe that educated business owners are effective business owners. And that's why we hold sessions like this, so that you can get some really good ideas about what could be missing in your business and how you can go and implement change, moving your business forward in the process. So, why storytelling mastery matters in 2026? We are exhausted. By we, I mean audiences, people who are spending time on social media by fast, shallow, and AI generated content. So we were very concerned as marketers at the beginning that AI was going to come and take our jobs. And actually, good marketers are now very relieved for AI coming into the space because it's actually shown the gap of what we do. We've been trying to tell people for years, but at least now we have proof, which is very helpful. So, what are our trends in 2026 that we need to keep in mind? Now, people are craving depth, authenticity, and emotional connection in the content that they're engaging with. Why? Because at the end of the day, we still do business with people we like, know, and trust. And we need to see more of that than ever now to compete with what AI is able to pump out onto our social media platforms. And this we can see from the kind of data that we're getting. The content which is more authentic is having a deeper connection with audiences. If it's just another kind of a post, just another stock image, we're losing people. So very important that we have a big focus on that. And brands that are telling meaningful stories are seeing higher loyalty and organic sharing. Now, that's not new information. We've known that for ages. We can see that. I mean, if I just think about a few of my favorite brands, I mean, I love Nomu, I love Le Creuset. There's always a storytelling element, okay? And that meaningfulness behind the content is important. Yes, it helps get sales, but you also got to show people what difference it makes in their lives, what problem you're solving for them. And if you're missing those points, you're missing a lot of storytelling to begin with. We don't want to hear, here's another frying pan. Why is your frying pan special in comparison to other frying pans? Is more what we want to know. Am I going to be fighting with non-stick that just keeps coming off every single time I buy a new pan and wash it? Is it difficult to wash? Does it catch easily? All of these things are important. But also, small businesses have a natural advantage when it comes to storytelling because we have a capability to feel more human and just be more real on a day-to-day basis. Where larger businesses and corporations, they can struggle to put that human element in there, especially because maybe their CEO isn't the face of the company when it comes to their marketing or their PR, but that's exactly what you could be doing for your business. You are the face, you are the voice, you are the vision, and you're sharing that with the world. And again, not necessarily from an egotistical point of view, but to connect with people. Those connections are important. So our benefits for small businesses are we get to create stronger emotional bonds with our potential customers and customers. Always easier to keep a customer happy than find new ones. Better differentiation in crowded markets. So if you've there's a book that talks about the blue sea theory versus the red sea theory. The red sea is it's a bloodbath. It's because all the sharks are there, right? Whereas the blue sea is that space where you are not even competing because you are just being authentic and true to yourself and clear in your messaging. You get higher engagement and conversion over time. And we're actually seeing that that time doesn't have to be that long. I'll talk a little bit later about the case study we did with Ford South Africa. And within 5 months, there was a huge change in that business. So, how long is long term, right? And then content that performs well across long form and short form platforms. So, how can we have a conversation in the blog space, tweet, um, Instagram? All of these things are important to keep in mind. So there's a couple of foundations to great brand storytelling. The core elements are your character. So that is your brand or your people. And if you have a look at the Donald Miller way of doing things in building a story brand, your character is always your client. And I've always loved that. If we hero the person, because we each actually see the world based from our own view, you are then centering that person in the middle of your narrative. So it makes it easier for them to see how your product or service will actually change their lives. What is the conflict? What is that pain point? Very important to highlight that. And then the transformation curve. So you're here and you want to be there, and this is how we help you get there. What is that uptick? Or even in some businesses, if I can keep you here rather than have a decline happen, so risk insurance and life insurance and things like that or disability cover is actually a very good example of that, right? So we want your income to stay like this. It doesn't matter what happens to you, rather than go down. That's a narrative curve. That is a transformation that we can take people through. And then your theme, what are your values? Because people really do connect and associate with those values. I know it feels like we're doing the vision and the mission and your core values and it gets put up on your wall and who looks at it again. But the core values of businesses resonate with the people who purchase from them. It's important to know what they are and to communicate them. Maybe not all the time, but sparingly, use some common sense with how you distribute it. And then the power of vulnerability is really, really powerful. In some ways, we sort of have made business very robotic, and I found this pre-COVID, where we had to pretend we were perfect all the time, and just get things done. But the pandemic did help us bring in a higher level of humanity into business again, and I think we're still there. But people also associate with that vulnerability and with challenges and with failures and with struggle. And it's that progress that builds trust. So even if you can admit to mistakes or having learned a better way of doing things, that is where people also connect. So that's a space that you can also focus on. So always authenticity first. Never fabricate a story, okay? It's not even about remembering the facts. I mean, that's the hard thing about coming up with something, right? You have to remember what all the truths are in your new story. Whereas if it is just the truth, you just are going to tap back into it so quick and so easy. So why are you doing what you do? Why do you think it's important in the world? There's some really good starting points there. All right, so we're going to have a look at some storytelling mastery frameworks and types to get you along the right path. Now, there are people who actually do this. If you want a storyteller, let me know. Annie is amazing, and you will love working with her if this is something that is a little bit more challenging for you to work out by yourself. And everything I'm going to cover here is not necessarily what a storyteller would actually develop for you, but it's a good starting point and something that you can do to just start breaking that camel's back. Number one is your origin story, how and why your business started. I mean, everyone's story is different. Some people come in and they saw a need. Some people had something happen in their life, like they were retrenched, or I mean, in my case, I went on maternity leave and realized that I was not putting a 3-month-old in creche. Um, I was a first time mom. I didn't know that up until then. It was a big realization. Um, and there's so many other reasons, but tell your story. It will connect with people. And for me, if so, okay, let's say that your business started out of necessity. Let's look at the um, being made redundant in the business, or a family crisis or something. All these things happen. That why might not connect strongly with a lot of other people. Some people are going to go, okay, I feel empathetic for you. Others are going to go, oh, I've been in that situation. I get it. But for me, what's really important is then what is the mission? Why this business? If I had to start a business, why this one in particular? I could have decided to make cupcakes out of my kitchen and sell them. Why did I decide to start a digital marketing agency? So that is also then really important to bring into the origin story, not just I got retrenched and I decided to do something one day. We need a little bit more than that. Where's the passion? Where's the enthusiasm? Where's the expertise? So, second one, customer success stories. So, this is really lovely. So, you get permission from your clients that you're going to use for this. And what were those real transformations? You get your clients to say, where were they before they decided to work with you? What was the experience? And where are they now? Or, like I said, avoiding that down curve and just staying consistent. Customer stories are really impactful because it's somebody else saying how awesome you are. A little bit better than me saying it, amazing, you should work with me, right? If I got somebody else to say it, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, hold on, they've had a good experience. Whereas I can believe whatever I want about myself, right? So that's something just to have a think about there. Your values and your mission story. So a little bit of what I tapped into. Why we do what we do. What is that driving passion? What is that burning need that you have to go to fill in society? Now, that is a great story, and that connects with people. So have a think about what change am I trying to make and how am I making that change? Great story. And then your values. I mean, there's lots of organizations that have good, strong core values, and it can be really easy to connect with those and go, yeah, that aligns with me, or oh, those don't align with me, and then you'll find somebody else to do business with. Great. If it makes decision making easier and you end up getting more clients that you would like, it's a win. Absolute win. Okay, behind the scenes or day in the life, how can you humanize your team and your process? Now, even if it's just you and your business, you have the opportunity to humanize your team, your one-man band who does everything from the tea lady to the CEO, right? That in itself will connect with people. There are people who choose to do businesses with small business owners where they know that they're helping to put a child through school rather than buy a CEO their second house. There are other people who might want to be like, I'd rather that the CEO buys their second house, and that's okay. So, what we share with people helps us to then find those connections that will help us build the relationships that make the best effect on our lives, but also on our clients' lives. Whereas that resonating is incredible. All right, some challenge and triumph stories. So, how you've overcome obstacles. If I think of an example at the moment, I've really enjoyed seeing some of the videos from Mike Posner coming out. So he's the artist. Yeah, the song "Cooler Than Me," if you have no idea what I'm talking about, which came out years ago. I think I was probably still a student, not giving my age away at all here. But that song came out and it was a big hit, and then he disappeared and he went quiet. And he's now come back with a whole load of new tracks, if not an album, checking myself here. Need to Google later. But he's had a bit of a comeback story. There was that he's gone and struggled with drugs and alcohol and that fame and suddenly got way too much money, and he's come out the other side of it, creating tracks which really connect with people. He's even gone back and rewritten some of his tracks to um, have a better snapshot of his current reality or the things that he's overcome. And it's connected really well with people. So, I mean, that's quite an extreme example, but I think, it really helps us to see where those challenges and triumphs could be. It could be that your delivery service just happened to have, gotten stuck on the N2 after the most recent flooding here in Cape Town, right? But there's a challenge that your business had to overcome. So what was the storyline? How did you get it sorted and humanize it as much as possible? A making of series, also a great idea. So some serial content. You don't have to do everything in one video, but release it in little snippets. What's going on behind the scenes and something that we're working on. This is how we're doing it. And people love following along, something like that. I'm busy doing that with one of the businesses that we have just to keep people up to date and excited about what's coming for them. It's just, this is what's happened. This is where we're at. Here's the next step. And that is translating really, really well. So nice and easy, something you can do at home. Okay, so some practical techniques. Your hero journey should be simplified for your brands. And your hero's journey is, what does your client go through? Now, Donald Miller has got a fantastic methodology for this. You can go and have a look at building a story brand. He's actually got a website that you can go and build your first one for free and walk you through the steps. I would suggest listening to the book or reading the book at the same time. I think you get a more impactful story brand if you do it that way. But it's 7 points in his stories. It's if there's a character, your client, who has a problem, there's a guide, you, who calls them to action, gives them a plan, calls them to action. Sorry, that way around, which takes them to success or helps them to avoid failure. So think about that up curve or the straight line, failure being down. Okay. And once you've got that little formula, that then actually helps you create a lot of content. There's that background work that makes a big difference in your marketing. And then, yeah, that before and after transformation journey with the bridge in between. That is the upward trajectory we want to take people on or keep them away from pain in the current state of existence. Those are the only two acceptable ones. And we want to avoid failure, avoid pain. That is what we want to do in our marketing messages. And then emotional hooks. So these are the ones that are working in 2026. Curiosity. I think did you know is a little bit overkilled, but you can find other ways to pique curiosity. Empathy. I understand where you're coming from. Hope. Things will change. And then belonging. You 500 other of our clients found this useful. Great stuff. So there's all great emotional hooks that you can use. And especially when it comes to social media content, you want to be bringing that into your mix. All right. So how do we do this on a budget? That is what's important here. It is very easy to create content which is authentic and relatable on a budget to help you grow your business. And then when you get to that point, get somebody else to do it for you. Have it look a little bit more professional. But also, if I'm completely honest, the best content that's converting right now is the stuff that looks like it's made on the camera, that isn't high production value. And there are actually shooters out there who are specializing in that. Give me a ring if you want to contact. All right. So tools. What do we need? We need a phone, which can take video. So most phones in 2026, Canva. So you can use that to do your visuals. If you want to do some scripting, you can do that on something like Google Docs or just Word. And one other one that I didn't include in here, which I use all the time, is CapCut, especially for video editing, putting on some captions. It's great. So that's something that you can think about. And then what kind of forms should you be creating? Now, you've got your long form and your short forms that you need to keep in mind. Your long forms are your newsletter blog and your longer YouTube videos, not the shorts, the proper, YouTube video. And that's where you can go into deeper conversations. So something like this, I'm going to go load onto YouTube once I've got the recording. And then there's a deeper value of information, which is then available for the person looking for information. Short form is there to get attention, get hooks, find a new audience, and then you send them through to your longer form content. And from there, they convert. That is how the little content cycle works. So that short form would be Reels or TikToks, what's going on LinkedIn. LinkedIn can sometimes bridge the two because you can do some really nice long form content on LinkedIn as well. And then be smart about it, right? Come up with one story and go, how can I use this? You also get deep content when you do it that way. So you're ticking all the boxes, all the AI engines, all the Google boxes, and that's what we want to do. So how can I take one piece of content, start with your blog, that's actually, or the video. So if I wanted to, I could take this, then go, how do I build a blog out of it? How do I then put that into a newsletter? What social media posts can I break out from this? And you see you've worked smarter, not harder. You don't have to rethink the wheel every single time. So how can you repurpose what you're doing into your whole ecosystem? All right, so here we go. We've got a step-by-step storytelling system. Number one, collect your stories. Now, that can either be team brainstorming, and if your team is me, myself, and I, have fun. Otherwise, yeah, get different perspectives in from your team because everyone has a slightly different experience. Everyone's got a different view of the world. Um, everyone's maybe spoken to different clients or service providers, and they can help you round out the different stories that your business needs to be aware of internally. And then you've got your customer stories, which can be done as interviews. You can ask them to send a video clip. You can ask them to send a voice note on WhatsApp, and then you can create a video out of that. Done it? It works. So there's different ways to do this. Then you can choose a framework and you can write your raw story. So there's 6 frameworks that we went through, one of those, or you work with somebody like Annie who can help you just really create something of meaning and depth. We've just been delivered one of her most recent story banks that she's done for one of our clients. Can't wait to start rolling that out. It's going to be amazing. And then edit for emotion and clarity. So have your emotional hooks, but be clear at the end of the day. That's what's really important. The minute we confuse people, we lose the sale. How can you break this into multi-format pieces? What's the big idea that then becomes a whole load of small ideas? And then publish consistently for the content calendar. So go and work out your month. I mean, right now we're already working on July content for the majority of our clients. So what could we be talking about for July? You're playing catch up for June, that's great, but play catch up and then start focusing on the next month. Get yourself a month ahead on your content so that you can get out of your own way and spend more time in your business and keeping your clients happy. This is important. So have a look at how you can create one story per month, and then how can you bring in that supporting short content, and what do you need to shoot is the question at the end of the day. So how do we know that this is working? We want higher time on your page. We want more shares or saves. We want better comments. We want, okay, so brand sentiment's a difficult one to measure if you're just looking at this yourself, but brand sentiment, how do people feel about your brand? Are you increasing your repeat purchases? And how much money does that one client give you over the lifetime? Is it 50 Rand? Is it 50,000 Rand? Big differences there. And some of the pitfalls that you can have in your content is being too salesy. So we need to tell people what we want them to do next, but don't hard sell them. Give them the story, explain the problem you've solved, and tell them how they can do business with you. Inconsistency is huge as well, especially with the algorithms. You have to maintain consistency. So get your content out, aim for 2 to 3 times a week at the beginning, just get yourself used to consistency, or plan once a month, schedule everything, move on. You don't have to be worrying about what I need to post on Facebook today. And a lack of an emotional truth. So have a good grounding in what it is that you want to share with people. And also don't over polish. I mean, I kid you not, but one of the worst projects I've worked on a website with a web developer, every time I asked him how things are going, he told me he was polishing it. I've never heard of a website being polished before. Um, that project ran 2 months over date. So that tells you everything. But you lose authenticity, and also you lose the point sometimes. Just sometimes your knee-jerk gut reaction is strong enough, and you just need a little bit of tweaking. Don't done is better than perfect, I think is what we need to say in that space. All right, so like I was saying, how quickly can these kinds of changes bring results? Now, Ford South Africa was a fantastic case study for us in 2025. We had the opportunity to work with their national sales team. We educated them on how to create better content and then critiqued it, so went back and gave them feedback, celebrated what was amazing, and spoke about the learnings in what wasn't. And then we saw a 6% increase in national sales, which is huge. And that was just 5 months. Never mind the amount of live leads that they still had that they needed to go and cultivate and work with. So incredibly successful. And if they can do it, you can definitely do it. That's a far bigger engine to have to, get to the right point. These sessions happen twice a month, and you're more than welcome to book out as many sessions as you would like. The idea is to share free information so that you have a sense of what is happening in marketing, empowering you to ask better questions of your internal team or service providers. And if you need help, give us a shout. We can assist you with that as well. One of the ways that we're doing this is by opening up some marketing group coaching. So in month 1, every client who does purchase this gets free time with me to set up your exact strategy for your business. And then for month 2, it's into a coaching environment with other business owners so that we can learn from them. I can keep you accountable to your timelines that you said you're going to do. And anything that you get stuck on, you can ask me. These groups are maxed out to 8 business owners a group. And yeah, you've also got constant WhatsApp and email support in between the sessions. Now, what Digital Happiness is really good at doing is doing this for people. It's what we've done for just over 8 years now in business. And that is clients come to us and say, hey, I need help with, and we go and execute it for them. And here we go. That's just there to give you an idea of some of our results and a couple of our clients. So we are able to build blueprints for any size of business. And these are just a couple of our bigger names, but our smaller clients also have a lot of benefit from working with us because we can start somewhere and build and grow as the business builds and grows as well. And yeah, sometimes our proposals are a bit like a picnic, which I quite like. Reminds me of going to Rocco Mamas for a burger and deciding what all you want on it or next to it and all of that. So it works well in this context as well. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope that the storytelling mastery has helped you to see some of the gaps that you might be experiencing in your business. We actually do have a storytelling workshop with Annie on the 10th of June. So if you haven't bought a ticket for that yet, you can go and get that on Quicket, and you will then get to hear from the master herself as to how to go and do this effectively for your business. As per always, at the end of these lunch and learn sessions, we go into a Q&A, bring all of your marketing questions, anything you're struggling with, and let's have a chat about it, and hopefully I can point you in the right direction. And if I don't know, happy to come back to you later and give you some advice. Thank you so much for spending this Thursday afternoon with me, and let's see what you have to ask.